Have you ever watched someone try every manipulative trick in the book, only to walk away frustrated and powerless? Picture this: a person who's used to getting their way through subtle manipulation meets someone who seems completely immune to their usual tactics. That's what happens when manipulators encounter a Sigma female. But here's the fascinating part: Sigma females aren't actively trying to destroy anyone. They're simply living authentically, and that authentic existence is like kryptonite to manipulative people. Today we're going to dive deep into the fascinating dynamic between Sigma females and those who try to manipulate them, and trust me, you'll never look at social interactions the same way again. The natural clash: why manipulators can't stand Sigma females. Let's start by understanding why manipulators and Sigma females are like oil and water. Manipulative people thrive in environments where they can create emotional dependency. They're like emotional architects, carefully constructing situations where others feel compelled to seek their approval, validation, or permission. They build their power through creating doubt, fostering insecurity, and establishing themselves as the solution to problems they often created in the first place. Enter the Sigma female. She's like a wrench in their well-oiled manipulation machine. While most people might dance to a manipulator's tune either knowingly or unknowingly, Sigma females march to their own beat entirely. They possess a level of self-sufficiency that makes manipulators' traditional tools about as effective as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. It's not just that Sigma females are difficult to manipulate; their very existence challenges the foundation that manipulative people build their influence upon. This natural resistance comes from a place of internal stability rather than learned defensive tactics. Imagine trying to sell a fish water. That's what attempting to manipulate a Sigma female feels like. They already have what manipulators try to convince others they need: emotional independence, self-validation, and an unshakable sense of self-worth. The foundation: emotional independence, as the ultimate defense. The cornerstone of a Sigma female's immunity to manipulation is their emotional independence. This isn't just about being strong or putting up walls, it's about having a complete internal ecosystem of emotional fulfillment. Think of it like having a sustainable power source versus needing to constantly plug into external outlets for energy. Emotional independence manifests in several key ways. First, there's the ability to process emotions without external validation. When something good happens, a Sigma female doesn't need to post about it on social media or get others' approval to feel good about it. When something challenging occurs, she has the tools to work through it internally rather than seeking constant reassurance or validation from others. And this independence extends to decision-making as well. While others might poll their entire friend group before making a choice, Sigma females trust their judgment enough to make decisions based on their own analysis and intuition. They might seek advice or input, but ultimately they know they're the best authority on their own life. The power of whatever energy: unbothered excellence. One of the most powerful weapons in a Sigma female's arsenal isn't actually a weapon at all. It's their genuine indifference to manipulation attempts. This isn't the fake "I don't care" that many people project when they're actually hurt. It's a genuine state of being unbothered that comes from a place of complete self-assurance. When a manipulator tries to push their buttons, they encounter something they rarely experience: someone who truly doesn't need their approval or validation. It's like watching someone try to use a TV remote on a painting. They can keep pressing buttons, but nothing's going to happen. This whatever energy isn't about being cold or dismissive. It's about having such a strong sense of self that external manipulation attempts simply don't register as significant. Think about how a cat ignores someone who's desperately trying to get its attention. That's the energy we're talking about. It's not calculated, it's not meant to frustrate, it's simply the natural state of someone who doesn't need to engage with manipulative tactics to feel complete. Boundaries: the art of elegant restriction. If emotional independence is the foundation, then boundaries are the walls that protect it. Sigma females excel at boundary setting not because they've studied it extensively, but because it comes naturally to them as an extension of their self-respect. Their boundaries aren't reactive or emotional, they're matter-of-fact statements of what they will and won't accept in their lives. What makes their boundary setting particularly effective is the lack of drama surrounding it. While others might need to make a big announcement about setting boundaries or feel the need to justify them, Sigma females simply establish and maintain them with the same casualness as deciding what to have for lunch. There's no lengthy explanation, no room for negotiation, and most importantly, no emotional investment in whether others approve of these boundaries. This approach to boundaries is particularly devastating to manipulators because it removes their favorite playground, the gray area. Manipulators thrive in situations where boundaries are fuzzy or negotiable. They love nothing more than slowly pushing boundaries through subtle manipulation, like water slowly eroding a rock. But with Sigma females, they encounter clear, firm lines that don't blur no matter how much pressure they apply. The art of selective interaction, strategic energy investment. Sigma females have mastered something that makes manipulators particularly uncomfortable: the art of selective interaction. They treat their time and energy as precious resources, investing them only where they see real value. This isn't about being antisocial or aloof. It's about being intentional with their energy investment. This selective approach manifests in various ways. They might participate in social activities, but they don't feel compelled to attend every event or engage in every conversation. They're comfortable stepping away from draining situations without feeling the need to explain themselves. When drama unfolds around them, they have an almost supernatural ability to stay out of it entirely. What makes this particularly effective against manipulators is that it removes their primary source of power: constant engagement. Manipulators rely on keeping their targets constantly engaged, whether through drama, guilt, or emotional dependency. When they encounter someone who simply opts out of this dynamic, they find themselves powerless. The mirror technique, reflecting manipulation back to its source. One of the most fascinating aspects of how Sigma females handle manipulation is what we might call the mirror technique. This isn't a conscious strategy they employ, rather, it's a natural consequence of their authentic way of being. When confronted with manipulation, they often simply reflect the behavior back to its source, not as a tactic, but as a genuine response to transparency. This reflection happens in several ways. When someone tries to use guilt as a manipulation tool, a Sigma female might simply acknowledge the attempt openly: "I understand you're trying to make me feel guilty about this decision." When someone attempts to gaslight them, they might calmly restate their reality: "That's not how I remember that situation, and I'm comfortable with my recollection." What makes this reflection so powerful is its lack of emotional charge. It's not done with anger or resentment, it's simply a clear acknowledgement of what's happening. This clarity is particularly uncomfortable for manipulators because it brings their tactics into the light, where they lose their power. The power of walking away, strategic disengagement. Perhaps one of the most powerful tools in a Sigma female's arsenal is their ability to walk away from manipulative situations without second-guessing themselves. This isn't about running from conflict or avoiding difficult situations, it's about recognizing when engagement serves no productive purpose and having the strength to act on that recognition. This ability comes from a deep understanding that not every battle needs to be fought, not every argument needs to be won, and not every relationship needs to be saved. Sigma females have an almost intuitive grasp of when to invest their energy and when to preserve it. They can walk away from toxic situations with the same ease as leaving a movie they're not enjoying. What makes this particularly devastating to manipulators is that it completely removes their power to engage. Manipulators rely on keeping their targets in the game, even if the game is unpleasant. When someone simply opts out of playing entirely, their manipulation tactics become irrelevant. Building the emotional fortress, internal validation as supreme power. At the core of a Sigma female's immunity to manipulation is what we might call their emotional fortress, a solid foundation of self-worth and internal validation that makes external manipulation attempts largely ineffective. This fortress isn't built overnight, it's the result of consistent self-trust and authentic living. The emotional fortress has several key components. First, there's self-trust, the ability to rely on one's own judgment, even when others question it. Then there's self-validation, the capacity to feel good about achievements and decisions without needing external approval. Finally, there's emotional self-sufficiency, the ability to process and manage emotions without constant external support. What makes this fortress particularly effective against manipulation is that it eliminates the common entry points that manipulators typically exploit. When someone has a strong internal validation system, external attempts to create self-doubt or insecurity simply don't find purchase. Understanding the game without playing it, the observer's advantage. One of the most interesting aspects of how Sigma females handle manipulative people is their ability to recognize manipulation without getting emotionally invested in it. They can spot the tactics, the love bombing, the guilt tripping, the gaslighting, but they observe these attempts with curiosity rather than engagement. This observer perspective gives them a significant advantage. While others might get caught up in the emotional drama of manipulation, Sigma females maintain enough emotional distance to see the patterns clearly. They can recognize when someone is trying to create artificial urgency, when they're being triangulated into conflicts, or when someone is trying to use their insecurities against them. Maintaining inner peace amid chaos, the zen of non-engagement. Perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of Sigma females is their ability to maintain inner peace even when surrounded by manipulative chaos. This isn't about being emotionally detached or cold, it's about having such a strong center that external attempts to create emotional turbulence simply don't penetrate. This inner peace comes from a deep understanding that other people's manipulation attempts are more about them than about the Sigma female. They recognize that manipulative behavior often stems from insecurity, fear, or a need for control, and they can acknowledge this without taking responsibility for it. The power of authenticity being real in a world of games. At its core, the way Sigma females destroy manipulative people is through their unwavering authenticity. They don't play social games, engage in emotional manipulation, or pretend to be something they're not. This authenticity acts as both a shield and a mirror, protecting them from manipulation while reflecting manipulative attempts back to their source. Inclusion, evolution over destruction. The true power of how Sigma females handle manipulative people lies not in destruction but in evolution. They don't set out to destroy manipulators, they simply exist in a way that makes manipulation ineffective. Their strength comes not from fighting fire with fire, but from being so grounded in their truth that manipulation attempts simply can't take root. This evolution manifests in several ways. First, there's the personal evolution of becoming someone who's immune to manipulation through self-trust and authenticity. Then there's the evolutionary pressure this puts on manipulators, who must either adapt their approach or find their usual tactics, becoming increasingly ineffective. The most beautiful part of this dynamic is that it's not about winning or losing, destroying or being destroyed. It's about existing in such an authentic way that manipulation becomes irrelevant. When you're secure in who you are, manipulative people don't just lose their power, they lose their audience. Remember, the goal isn't to become a Sigma female just to defeat manipulators. It's about developing such a strong sense of self that manipulation becomes as relevant as a sales pitch for something you already own. When you're secure in your worth, clear in your boundaries, and authentic in your being, manipulative people naturally lose their influence over your life. And that's not destruction, that's evolution.